Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Mailbag, the show here on Collider Video where all we do is take your mailbag questions. My name is John Campia. I am the senior producer over here at Collider Video. And how do you get one of your questions on our show? It's simple. You simply email us to collidervideo@gmail.com. Send that to us anytime you want, 24/7. Maybe you'll see one of your questions pop up on our Monday to Friday movie talk show, or maybe you'll see it pop up here on Mailbag. Now, as I kind of suggested, this is Mailbag for Sunday, August the 9th, and we're going to dive right into it today, starting with the first question. The first question we pulled out of the Mailbag this week comes to us from Tanner Brown, and Tanner Brown writes, "Hey guys, great to see that you were all able to stick together and make a smooth transition over to Collider. I know I was excited when I heard the news, as I'm sure were many others." Well, thank you very much. Nobody was more excited about this than us, believe you me. My question is whether or not Green Arrow is going to be in the DC Cinematic Universe. I know we've heard about all these upcoming movies, including Justice League, but I've heard nothing about Green Arrow. Thanks, and I wish you all the best at Collider. Well, thanks a lot, and we are loving our new home over here at Collider. It was just such a great, perfect fit. We're super thrilled. And we are stunned at how smooth of a transition it has really been and how many of you guys instantly followed us over. And we are really, really grateful for all of that. But let's get to your question about Green Arrow. You know, there have been a lot of questions about Green Arrow lately, especially as DC started to expand their cinematic universe, you know, because we got Wonder Woman coming, we got Aquaman coming, we got Cyborg coming, we got Shazam coming, you know, all this kind of stuff. And there became a really big question about, will we see Green Arrow? And we've kind of addressed this before, but you know, the climate has changed a little bit. Some new information has come around. Well, at first, you know, DC was pretty insistent, and they still are pretty insistent, that our television universe, you know, Flash, Green Arrow, Supergirl, whatever, our television universe is totally separate from our movie universe. You know, Marvel, they cross over their television and movie universe. They have one cinematic universe. And I personally think that's a mistake. I'm not saying anything good or bad about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or Agent Carter or any of that stuff at all, or Daredevil, whatever. I'm not saying anything good or bad about any of those shows. I just personally, just my opinion, think it's a mistake that they cross their television and movie worlds. I think they unnecessarily creatively tie the hands of the show creators that now their shows have to stay consistent with whatever's going on in the movie universe. I don't personally like it. That's just me. Now, a lot of people thought that DC was going to cross over their movie and television universe anyway, until we found out that Ezra Miller was playing the Flash in the movies. And obviously we have a different Flash. Grant Gustafson is playing the Flash in the television series. Awesome television series. Still to this day, right now, my favorite comic book show on television right now is The Flash. We'll see how long that lasts. I mean, and when the discussions first started coming up about should the DC Cinematic Universe have a Green Arrow, I think a lot of that was propelled by the fact that Stephen Amell is such a great Green Arrow. He is such a great Oliver Queen. And I think I don't think the issue for a lot of people is wanting to see TV and movies cross over. I think just a lot of people wanted to see Stephen Amell as Green Arrow on the big screen because he's done such a terrific job as Green Arrow in the television show. But DC is sticking to their guns. We are separating our television from our movie universes, and I think that's the right move. Now, there have been, over at Warner Brothers, some attempts through the years to bring a Green Arrow movie to the big screen. Like before the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern movie ever got greenlit, there was serious look at a script over at Warner Brothers called Supermax. Now, we've talked about Supermax before on Collider Video. Supermax was this movie where it's not an origin story of Green Arrow. It's Green Arrow finds himself in this Supermax penitentiary specifically designed for supervillains. And a lot of the people in this Supermax penitentiary are people Green Arrow put there. And now Green Arrow finds himself in there. He's got to survive and he's got to get out. And from what I understood, he had to team up with a bunch of like B-level DC villains for him to survive and get out of the Supermax prison. Now, I think David Goyer wrote the script for that. And I never read the script myself personally. But from everything I hear, a lot of people were very enthusiastic about it. But for one reason or the other, Warner Brothers never got past that stage. They never gave the final green light to the project. Never happened. Right now, the DC Cinematic Universe, having only had one movie, and that's Man of Steel, they've got an awful lot of characters in their universe right now. Because like all the characters I already mentioned, they're all coming in. I have to believe that at some room on the Warner Brothers lot is a collection of people saying, yeah, at some point we've got to put in Green Arrow. I think Green Arrow is a popular enough character. Now, at the same time, maybe they think, we're already risking some confusion by having a television Flash and a movie Flash. We might be causing some confusion there. Because I know some people thought, well, what if the TV Flash is, Barry Allen and the movie Flash is Wally West or is, one of the other Flashes? Nope, they're both Barry Allen. So maybe the people at Warner Brothers are thinking, look, we're already risking causing confusion, having two different Flashes. Are we pushing it by having two different Green Arrows? I don't think they're thinking that way, personally. So I like to think that, yes, I think personally at some point, I do believe Green Arrow is too good of a character. I think at some point they will want to introduce him, but I think they're going to want to step back, take a breath. Let's see how Batman versus Superman turns out. Let's see how the audience reacts to that. Let's see how we do with a standalone Batman film. Let's see how Suicide Squad does and get a little bit of a feel for how their universe is shaping up. Then they'll make a decision on when and where to insert a Green Arrow. Thanks a lot for the question. All right, let's move on. And the next question today comes to us from Sam Dean. And Sam Dean writes, "Greetings, Collider crew. Keep up the amazing work. We've all known for a while that Paramount was planning on Terminator Genisys to be the start of a new Terminator Trilogy. However, with the film receiving poor critic and audience reviews alone, with only making a little more than $300 million worldwide on a $155 million budget, is this the end of the Terminator franchise? Thanks for all that you do, and may the Force be with you." Well, thanks a lot for the question, Sam. There's a couple of weird pieces to this puzzle, and it's not just box office. Now, box office alone, if you were really hell-bent on making another Terminator movie after, because you're right, they had a plan for multiple new Terminator movies, no doubt. And if they were hell-bent on doing the next one, the box office results of Terminator Genisys aren't impressive, but they're not bad enough to stop you from doing another one if you really wanted to. Here's where it starts to get tricky. It starts to get tricky when you understand that the rights to Terminator, they're going to lose the rights to Terminator. No matter what happens, the rights to Terminator, as far as I understand, according to a story I read on Variety at any rate, the rights to Terminator in 2019 go back to James Cameron. James Cameron gets the rights back in 2019, no matter what. So if they want to make another one, they're going to have to move really fast. They're going to have to make, there was originally, I think, a plan for a trilogy, but they got started on these films far too late. There's no way they can bang out two more films between now and 2017. That would be a or 2019. That would be a very tall order. Not impossible, but a tall order. So I think you're looking at, maybe one more Terminator if they really wanted to do it. Now, with the notion that Terminator goes back to James Cameron in 2019, don't get all excited. Because I know some people were getting really excited. It's like, James Cameron's going to start making Terminator films again in 2019. No, he's not. James Cameron's got like 3 more Avatar movies he's working on. There's still talk about him doing Battle Angel. Don't start pinning any hopes on James Cameron coming back to the world of Terminator. I don't think he will. It would be interesting if he did. I'd be excited if he did, but he's got so much on his plate right now. I just don't see that happening. So with the rights going back to James Cameron, there is a possibility James Cameron could just then turn around and lease the rights back to Paramount, back to not Skydance Pictures, Annapurna Pictures, I think is the name of the company that the rights belong to right now. He could just turn around and lease the rights back to them. And then they can continue on making pictures. Or he could just keep them and let them sit on a shelf. Or he could take them and lease them to Disney or lease them to Universal, well, because Universal needs another giant franchise hit. Anyway, lease him to Universal, or lease him to Lionsgate, or lease him to whoever he wants. So there is a risk, if you're the current filmmakers of Terminator, that, hey, let's build a couple films, but we're losing the rights anyway, and then they're just going to go to somebody else. So I think they need to get that part figured out first. I think right now they need to figure out, I think they were hoping that Terminator Genisys would have been a massive hit, because if it is, then whatever, we'll just pay whatever money to James Cameron to get the rights back because we know we've got a hit on our hands. But it wasn't a massive hit. And now they have to decide, what are our plans for this franchise? Do we think we're going to be able to do what we need to do in order to get the Terminator rights back from James Cameron once they go to him in 2019? Or do we just say, you know what? We made a half-decent film. It didn't get the response that we wanted. Let's cut our losses and call it a day. And then somebody else will pick up the Terminator rights and start going. And we'll probably never see Arnold Schwarzenegger as Terminator again, unless they do decide to push ahead and make another one right now before the rights go back to James Cameron, in which case we will see Arnold again. So as you can see, this is a more complicated issue than just a normal issue of, should a studio make a sequel to this film, whatever that film is. This has a few more moving parts to it. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out in the next couple of years. Let's keep our eyes on it. All right, let's move on to the next question now. And the next question comes to us from JC Emerson, who writes, "Hello, Collider crew. I love the show and I watch every day." Well, thank you so much, JC. You guys are awesome. My question is about the arrival of a first look at Captain America Civil War. With the D23 Expo coming soon, do you think this will be when we get our first look at Phase 3 of the MCU? Well, thanks a lot for the question, JC. Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Disney has their own like little Comic-Con, and it's called D23. Now, I have avoided D23s for the I went to one. I was underwhelmed by it. And everything I've heard about D23 and the ones that I've since skipped, no one's really been impressed. This year, though, I think is going to be different. I think Marvel, when Disney did not send Marvel to Comic-Con this year, I think it was because they had big plans for their own convention, D23. And I've been told by people at Disney that this is going to be the biggest one ever. They're putting a lot more energy and focus into this, and there's going to be a lot to see and experience at D23. And that, I believe, is this coming week, is D23. So with that being said, we've talked about this on Movie Talk, that Marvel has kind of been separating themselves, and Disney has been separating themselves from Comic-Con. Number one, they did that big press event of their own last year when they announced the full Marvel lineup between now and like 2018, 2019. They just booked the El Capitan Theater in Hollywood. They invited press and fans, and it was like their own Hall H from Comic-Con. Except they didn't have to go to San Diego and bring everybody down there and spend all the money they need. They just did it here. And it went great. For Star Wars, they have their own thing called Star Wars Celebration. And that was just a big hit where they released the big full trailer for Star Wars. So that went over like gangbusters. And now they've got D23. So the question is, at this D23 coming up this week, can we expect to see a real look at Captain America Civil War? I'm going to go on the record and say I believe yes. I do believe we are going to get our first glimpse of Captain America Civil War at D23. I'm going to be at the panel on Saturday morning. It's their live action panel when they should be talking about some Star Wars stuff, a few other things, and their Marvel Cinematic Universe. Look, they've been shooting Captain America Civil War for long enough now. Heavens, they might even be done shooting principal photography at this point. So I'm not going to be surprised at all. Actually, I will be surprised if they don't show us something from Captain America Civil War. So I believe you're right. My gut tells me that we are going to get, at least I'm really hoping because I'm driving to Anaheim for this, we are going to get our first teaser trailer, at least teaser trailer for Captain America Civil War. We are less than a year away from it now. Actually, we're probably, I think 9 months away. I'll have to look it up. I think we're like 9 months away from Captain America. I'm sure there's 100 of you commenting, correcting me about how far away it is actually right now. But anyway, which is a good distance away for a first little teaser. Why not? I mean, it's cool if they wait till it's 4 months away, but they could do it right now and it would be fine. And if they are serious, if Disney's serious about D23 becoming a serious player, becoming a serious alternative to Comic-Con, then they better drop some bombs on us. They better give us some big stuff. I'm expecting some big reveals about Star Wars Rogue One. I'm expecting something to be shown from Star Wars or from Captain America Civil War. So I think it behooves them to do that, and I think they will. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Patrick. And Patrick writes, do you think in the future there will be a faster way to make movies? With most movies, it is a minimum 2-year project. Hollywood would be able to capitalize on more popular brands if there was a quicker way. What, if anything, could help make movies quicker? And do you think in the far future, movies could be released within a couple of months of conception? Well, I mean, that brings up a couple of issues, Patrick. Number one, do we want just quick turnaround movies that just capitalize on popular brands? Because then you're getting more movies that are just coming out. Like, let's say, I don't know, let's say, I'm trying to figure something. Let's say Tablet the movie. This is my old Nexus 7 tablet. I got a newer tablet at home, but I use this here in my office. So let's say Nexus tablet was a big, super popular thing right now. Okay. The Nexus 7 tablet was a big popular thing right now. Oh, then let's just crank out a Nexus 7 tablet movie. Go. I mean, I don't know that we want that. I think we want a little bit of development, a little bit of time going into it. And by the way, too, when you say that it's a minimum 2-year turnaround time for movies, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. A lot of films are much quicker turnaround, probably about a year. Now, and when the cameras start rolling, I mean, it's possible from when production starts, however long pre-production is and development and all that can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 10 years. The development stage is a whole different issue. But from the moment you get in front of the camera and actually start production on a film, we've seen where movies in Hollywood, like even big Hollywood movies just this past year, where movies start shooting and they're in theaters in less than a year. So it's really not that long of a turnaround time. I mean, look, you can make a movie right now. I talk a lot about this film program that I took, that Quentin Tarantino took, and my friends Neveldine and Taylor, who are directors in Hollywood, they recommended me to go take. But this Dove S.S. Simmons film project, and he put it best. He said, look, you want to know how to make a movie? This is how you make a movie. Take a camera, put it on a tripod, hit record, have some of your friends do something in front of the camera, 2 hours later, hit stop, and there you've got a movie. I mean, you can make a movie just like that fast. The question is, the question is how much time and energy and effort and care do you want going into your movies? Development is the big wild card in all this. Because it could take forever to get a studio just to greenlight a movie. So you can't really count development. So I'm just going to say, from the moment that, a movie is greenlit and production starts, it's really not that long. When you consider everything that needs to go into it, you can have a movie starting shooting and being in theaters in 6 months, really, if you want to right now. So I don't really want to see a turnaround time much faster than that. I, as a fan, am personally very happy with the pace at which movies come out right now. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question comes to us from Tim Robinson, who writes, my question is regarding false advertising laws in Hollywood. In yesterday's show, John and Christian said that some scenes from the new Fantastic Four trailer weren't shown in the movie, and it got me thinking, is Fox treading on thin ice in terms of potentially being sued by someone for false advertisement? And does this happen more often than people think? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Tom. Well, it is not unprecedented for a Hollywood studio to get sued for false advertising in their trailers. It has happened. Remember that Ryan Gosling movie Drive a few years ago? Well, there was a lawsuit brought against them because, according to one woman who was really upset with it, said, hey, the trailers made it look like this was going to be a Fast and Furious style action, high intensity, high octane movie. And of course, as all of you know, Drive is not that. Drive is a very character driven, very slow, very deep, very dark film that was really nothing like the trailers made it out to be. One of the big examples of this for me, we've talked about before, is that Disney film Bridge to Terabithia. The trailers to that told me that movie was something totally different than what it actually was. I mean, it was a night and day difference because the trailers made it look like this fantasy movie of these children who find this magic kingdom, and instead it's really dark. It's about this kid and this other little kid who dies, and the other kid has to deal with it. They're two totally different movies. It is not unprecedented, although it is really foolish, for studios to get sued over false advertising. In the case of Fantastic Four, man, I'd say about 30% of the stuff that we've seen in those trailers aren't in the movie. Like the big one that they used in almost all the trailers, that big fantastic shot, fantastic. Anyway, that big fantastic shot of the Thing dropping out of a bomber and you see him falling towards the ground and then he hits the ground with a big boom and explosion and blah, blah, blah. And then it cuts to Reed saying, how long till impact? 10 seconds. And then Thing hits, maybe sooner. That's not in the movie. They've put that in multiple versions of their trailers, and that's not in the movie. We've seen in almost all the trailers, Reed standing in what looks like a hospital room over somebody laying on a gurney. It's Doom. And, the person on the gurney saying, you don't know what's coming. And then Reed Richards saying, what is coming? And the person on the gurney, who we now know is Doom, goes, Doom. They played that in multiple versions of their trailers. Not in the movie. There's a number of things in the Fantastic Four trailers that are not even in the film. Probably stuff that they cut out of Josh Trank's version, and yet they like the stuff good enough to put in the trailers, but they cut it out of his movie anyway. There is an argument to be made here that quite often the marketing departments have to start putting these materials together pretty far in advance. And sometimes final edits and final cuts of movies aren't necessarily done by the time they're putting these trailers together. So the marketing department just takes whatever they think are the best parts to make a trailer out of and then go. And it can then happen, this happens all the time, that after a trailer starts getting put together, more edits on the film get made and stuff that was going to be in the movie and thus the marketing department put in their trailers is no longer in the movie. And I don't really think you can hold marketing responsible for that. There are timelines, there are deadlines you have to meet. And I think we as audiences, it does bother me. It bugs me. I think studios need to make more of a concerted effort to try to make sure that this happens less often when there's stuff in a trailer that isn't actually in the movie, because you're right, that is kind of false advertising. But at the same time, even though I'm bothered by it and it bugs me and I get upset by it, you also have to cut them a bit of slack and just understand that's the reality of it, that they have to do it. Bridge to Terabithia and Drive are different instances, because even though Drive was a great movie and Bridge to Terabithia was a great movie, they were different movies than what was on the packaging. We bought something off the shelves at Walmart, opened the package and found something completely different inside. They do got to be careful, but I don't think lawsuits is the answer to that. Honestly, I don't think that's the way to approach it or think about it or even worry about it. All right, let's move on to the next question. And the next question today comes to us from Arian S., who writes, hey folks, with it becoming apparent why there was an embargo regarding the Not So Fantastic Four, it made me question if a preview screening for critics is compulsory. The poor reviews are obviously going to make the collections take a hit, so why put it out for reviewers at all? Surely, if the film went into general release without any negative reviews, would it have been more financially beneficial? Your thoughts? Well, here's the thing. Yeah, we were talking a little while ago and quite a bit over the last week or two when it became obvious that Fox was hiding their film from critics. They were hiding their film. And even though I have been very enthusiastic and very excited about Fantastic Four, even I went, not anymore, because if Fox is hiding this movie, that's Fox telling us that they have no faith in the film and that Fox knows that the film is bad. And if they think the film is bad and if they have no faith in the film, why should I have any faith in the film? And sure enough, that's how it turned out. The movie was rotten and Fox was hiding it from people. If you believe in your film, and Marvel is a master at Marvel and Disney are masters at doing this. If you believe in your film, You take advantage of positive word of mouth. If you believe in your film, you want critics to see it. You want some advanced audiences to see it because you want word of mouth and some buzz to start generating so people will get excited about your film. And I believe it's important. I've said this before, but it bears repeating here. I am not a film critic. I review movies, but I'm not a film critic. I'm not that skilled. I'm not a journalist per se. But I believe in film critics. I want film critics out there. You know, why? Because if there's not film critics out there, people who don't have a vested interest whether you go to a movie or not, if there aren't film critics out there, then all we have to base our decision on whether or not we want to see a movie, then all we have to base our decision on is what the company, the studio, the people behind the movie pitch to us. That's all we'll have to go on. You know, we just answered a question about false advertising. About, you know, studios, their only concern, and this should be, I don't blame the studios for this. This is the way it should be. The studio's only concern is getting you to go to their movie. That is their only concern, and that's the way it should be. I have no problem that that's their motivation, that that's their drive. Totally get it, because that's what their business is. I don't fault them for that at all. But we need a counterbalance to that. Like, if you just want to be a corporate slave, that's fine. If all, like, I talked to a friend of mine who said, I just want to watch a trailer and then decide for myself. And I said to my friend, so basically you just want to listen to the people who stand to gain by you going to that movie. You want to be a corporate drone. You want to be a corporate slave. You want to be slave to the corporate message machine that they're going to put out. So that's all you're going to base your decision on is what the corporation tells you. And I don't think things should be that way, right? Like, if you're going to buy a car, I've made this analogy before. If you're going to buy a car and invest like $20,000 into a car, you're not just going to listen, if you're going to buy it from Ford, you're not just going to listen to what Ford says about the car, because they're clearly hyper biased. You'll want to hear what other people who they don't make any money or lose any money, whether you buy that car or not. You want to listen to some third parties give their thoughts on that car as well. You will put in some research. And you know, our entertainment dollars, even though it's not much, $12, whatever, you want to put in a little bit of research. And therefore, I think the role of film critics are hyper important, like very important. I want to know what a guy like Christian Harloff thinks of a movie because, you know, if I'm going to go watch a Fox movie, then I want to see Fox's pitch. Okay, Fox, give me your pitch about why I should see this movie, and that's the trailer. But I don't want to just be a corporate slave and just listen to what Fox tells me. I want to hear what Christian doesn't make 1 cent if I go to that movie or not. So I want to hear what he thought about it. I want to see what 20 other critics thought about it. It helps me make informed decisions about what I want to go to. I take the trailer, I take what other people are saying about it, I take the buzz about it, take my own personal, enthusiasm, and I weigh all that out, and then I make my decision if I want to invest my time and money in going to see that movie. And I think the roles are important. That being said, if you are a studio and you've got a movie that you don't have a lot of faith in, I still say you put it out. You put it out there for the critics to see, and this is what most studios do. You put it out there for some advanced audiences to see, because like Mark Ellis said on Movie Talk last week, even if you don't believe in your own movie, act like you believe in your own movie. Because we were talking far more about how bad Fantastic Four was going to be because they were hiding it from critics than we would have been otherwise. If Fox had shown a little bit of balls and showed a little bit of backbone and showed a little bit of integrity and said, we believe in our film. Even if you don't, pretend you believe in your film. Because if you don't believe in your film, why should any of us believe in your film? And we're going to put it out for a week and a half in advance for critics to see. And if they bash it, they bash it. If they like it, they like it. Whatever, doesn't matter. We still move forward. We're going to act like we believe in our film. And when you don't, and you do the cowardly thing like they did, which is hide it from everybody, it just kind of, ruins the whole thing. So I believe it is compulsory that you do put these things out for critics to see, because if you don't, you are sending up a red flare in the air that says, our movie isn't any good. You shouldn't spend your money to see it if you have no faith in it whatsoever. So that's just my personal feeling on it. All right, the next question today comes to us from Corey. And Corey writes, Hey guys, just watched The Usual Suspects for like the 10th time and went to search for some stuff on it. By the way, Usual Suspects always has been, always will be in my top 10 favorite all-time films. Anyway, while looking, I saw someone saying they might be doing an origin story for Soze. I was wondering what your guys' thoughts are on this, and if you know the credibility of the claim. Thanks for making awesome shows. Your work is appreciated. Well, thanks a lot for the question, Corey. Yeah, Kaiser Soze. Man, that just one of the many things that makes The Usual Suspects so freaking brilliant. If you want to see Bryan Singer direct a brilliant movie that isn't called X-Men, watch Usual Suspects. It is so freaking good. And Kaiser Soze is one of the best villains that you never see, but do see. I'm not going to give too much away. I do believe in the devil. And the only thing I'm afraid of is Kaiser Soze. Anyway, and there was a lot of talk for a number of years about a Kaiser Soze spin-off film, maybe even an origin story of Kaiser Soze. Now, as far as I know, though, and this is the unfortunate part, it never came to pass. And I think the longer we get away, because Usual Suspects was a lot of years ago, man, and then further and further away I think we get from The Usual Suspects, I think our chances diminish that we're going to get a Kaiser Soze movie. It's not the end of the world if we don't, because Usual Suspects just works as a standalone film so freaking brilliantly. If you have not seen The Usual Suspects, watch The Usual Suspects. The movie is freaking brilliant. Just brilliant. So make sure you watch it. And then you too will be calling for a Kaiser Soze origin story. But I think the further away we get from it, the less and less of a chance that it's going to happen. And yeah, as far as I know, the talks about them doing it ended a while ago, so I don't think it's happening. But by all means, guys, if you have heard differently, please, with a link to a source, jump in the comment section, tell us where you've heard it, tell us what you're hearing, and give us links to where you're hearing from, because I will be more than excited if we're getting a Kaiser Soze movie. All right, last question of the weekend, and this one comes to us from Verona A, who writes, Hey Collider crew, this isn't really a question, but more of an opinion. I personally believe that the Phase 1 of Marvel was the better phase. It was when Marvel didn't throw in too many jokes to sell their movies, or when the movies felt a bit sloppy and rushed. Until Ant-Man, it seemed like Marvel was becoming phobic of a movie that isn't all one-liners and jokes. While watching the film, I felt like Ant-Man brought that feel of the Phase 1 classic and classy Marvel movies, especially that it's an origin story. Do you agree or disagree? Which Marvel phase do you prefer? Well, thanks a lot for the question, Verona. I personally, just me, I'm going to have to really disagree with you. Because when I think of the best Marvel films, putting the Avengers aside, because it's the best Marvel standalone films, when I think of the best ones, my favorites are Captain America Winter Soldier, Guardians of the Galaxy, X-Men, Ant-Man. These are my favorite standalone Marvel films. And they've all been in Phase 2. And, the origin of a lot of one-liners and whatever, that all came from the first Marvel film, Iron Man. I mean, Iron Man is loaded with that type of humor. There are great movies in Phase 1. Iron Man, the first Thor, is actually my personal favorite movie of Phase 1, is the original Thor. I like the first Captain America, but for me personally, and it's all subjective. I mean, my opinion isn't right and your opinion isn't wrong. I'm just saying, for me personally, I think Phase 2 has been a big step up. I loved Phase 1, but for me, Phase 2 has been a big step up. I've really enjoyed it. Now, Thor 2 might have been, I still enjoyed Thor 2, but it wasn't, quite up to snuff. But yeah, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, and Captain America Winter Soldier, which I believe belongs in the conversation with best comic book movies ever made. To me, almost everything about Phase 2 is just taking a step up. So my own personal opinion, I would have to go with Phase 2. All right, folks, that will do it for this installment and this weekend's worth of Mailbags. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, listen, don't forget, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Click on that subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our channel. Make sure you're staying up to date with all the videos and all the things we've got going on over here at Collider Video, and it would help us out a lot. Now, also don't forget, if you're a big fan of entertainment news, movies, and television, you have to make sure you bookmark Collider.com. Steve Frosty Weintraub and his incredible team of writers over there, keeping you up to date every single day, up to the minute with all the cool stuff going on in the world of entertainment. Make sure you subscribe there. Hey, and don't forget, guys, you can follow Collider Video on social media. Follow us on Instagram and on Twitter, just at Collider Video. And by the way, you can follow me as well on social media. Follow me on Twitter, and you can follow me on Facebook at John Campia. A lot of times I make a lot of announcements about what's going on with Collider and all that kind of stuff on there first. And, I do all my own little pithy ranting off the top of my head stuff. So make sure you're following me there. I hope to see you on my social media channels. So that'll do it for us, guys, for this installment of Mailbag. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is John Campia for Collider Video, and until next time, bye-bye.